If there was a dictionary definition of Portuguese Magnifico, it would be first 18 months. But what has been Bruno Fernandes' overall impact at Manchester United? When Fernandes joined United on the 29th of January 2020 from Sporting Lisbon for an initial 46.6 million, we were 5th, 6 points off the top 4. By the end of the 1920 season, we finished 3rd and 2nd in the 2021 season. His contribution during this period was significant. But since then, his stats have dropped, performance levels have dropped, and his toxic attitude towards his teammates has been evident. I'll be analysing his performance without the ball, his leadership, and performance with the ball. Let's go to the whiteboard. A lot of United's defensive frailty originate from how poor United's forward defensive line is, and Fernandes has been and continues to be a huge contributor to that, and it manifests in 2 ways. The first are his one-man press missions that have no impact on the opposition and only lead to him selling himself because the distances he goes from are too big, which leaves United outnumbered in midfield. From there, it's a domino effect of players getting dragged out of position to compensate that people rarely trace all the way back to its source, which in these scenarios is of course Fernandes. United have City pinned in here, but Fernandes is too far off to impact City, but he shoots up on Ake, then shoots up on Ederson. All Ederson does is chip the ball over Fernandes' head into the space he vacated, leaving Casemiro in a 2-on-1 overload. Fernandes has his arms out complaining that his press hasn't been backed up, but what does he expect? United to put a 12th man on the pitch to plug his gaps? The point is you have to be in position to press, and he wasn't, and he chased the ball anyway. This is against young boys when United were down to 10 men. Leading 1-0, all Fernandes has to do is hold his position to protect his space, but he chases the ball once, then chases again, sells himself, and look at how open midfield is because Fernandes is chasing the ball. Idiotic play went down to 10 men. This is a massive distance to start a press on a keeper, and United are clearly not set up for a press, but he goes anyway. At the point Fernandes gets to Alisson, he has so many options, unless he makes a complete mess of it, another pointless run from Fernandes. Alisson does him with a Cruyff, and when he plays the ball out, Fernandes is behind all of Liverpool's midfield. The second issue is not tracking runners, and the impact this has on the team's defensive equilibrium is opposition players progressing unmarked, or United players getting dragged out of position to cover, which opens up other areas. We see this time and time again, the rest of the team scrambling to plug gaps Fernandes creates, and the rest of the team get criticised when they fail to achieve that. In the 6-3, Fernandes' job without the ball was to mark Gundogan, and as we can see here, he is doing that. But as soon as Gundogan makes a move forward, Fernandes just lets him go. Ake plays the ball to Gundogan, Antony gets pulled infield to compensate for Fernandes, leaving Dalot overloaded on the right with Fernandes back here. If Fernandes had tracked Gundogan, Antony would have been here. Man for man on Gundogan again, and he lets him go again. Fernandes is touch tight here, he lets him go, and City are able to get the ball into Gundogan to beat United's press. Once again, Fernandes is man-to-man on Gundogan, but Fernandes takes his eye off him to moan at Eriksen because he didn't give him the ball a moment ago. Gundogan makes his move, with Fernandes still having a go at Eriksen. Fernandes is now reacting and doesn't get to Gundogan before he gets this ball away, and that's the start of the 3rd goal. This is straight after the 3rd goal, and he still hasn't learned his lesson. Goal-sided Gundogan again, lets him go again, and that passes on to get into this massive pocket of space, but luckily for Fernandes, Akanji turns the pass down. In this game, he had a simple job of sitting on a number 6, who only ever made subtle movements, and he still let Gundogan go time after time. Now, no one came out to the City 6-3 with any credit, but with Ten Hag playing a man-for-man system, Fernandes not tracking Gundogan caused huge issues for the rest of the team, and they got rinsed on the pitch and slated off the pitch. Paul Scholes in this meme had a dig at Antony and Sancho, but like I said earlier, the real issues never get traced back to the source. With Brooks free, Fernandes has to drop into cover. The direction of his run appears to be going in that direction, but he checks his run to go to the ball, leaving Brooks completely free in the box. With McAllister free, Fernandes has to work hard and drop in, not interested, giving McAllister a free shot in the box. Fernandes is touch tight to Sims, he lets him run off him, and we can see the massive gap Sims has to run into with Fernandes in the left back position. Coleman has just taken a throw into Iwobi, and again we can see Fernandes touch tight. Iwobi plays the ball back to Coleman, and Fernandes goes towards the ball despite Sancho being there, letting Iwobi go. And of course there was this classic where Fernandes is this distance from Pedro and looking at him, and doesn't even try to get back at Pedro, who is only jogging, and of course scores. These examples are not one-offs. This happens game in, game out, season in, season out. This is an example of Fernandes chasing after the ball unnecessarily and not tracking a runner. In this game, Fernandes was playing on the right. As we can see, City have an overload on that side, and Fred has Walker lined up, but Fernandes shoots across the pitch to engage Walker. At the point he gets to Walker, we can see that Fred and Malacia were there, and the space De Bruyne and Haaland are in where Fernandes would have been on that side. But United have reset, and Fernandes has to play the left until he gets back across, but this is incredible. He bends over knackered and lets Mahrez go past him. And this is the distance between the two when Mahrez gets on the ball. Now hopefully, Fernandes' play without the ball answers the question, why does Fernandes get pushed out to the right, in favour of Mount, Hannibal, and even Weghorst last season? Just in case it hasn't. This is an example I showed in the summer of Mount's recovery running on Camavinga, who was quick himself, to stop a dangerous attack. So he won't always track a runner, but he will chase a referee down for an argument. And that leads me on to leadership. I use the term loosely because his toxic personality doesn't have a semblance of positive leadership in it. I completely agree with Micah Richards' assessment of Fernandes, and maybe United fans should listen to the blue side of Manchester on this. This is a shocker of a pass from Fernandes, but in true Fernandes style, arms out, it was Garnacho's fault. Despite the game progressing, Fernandes is still eyeballing Garnacho up the pitch. Fernandes is on the ball, is facing a high line, and has two passing options in Ronaldo and Rashford. He's too slow on the ball and gets dispossessed, and starts freaking out at Ronaldo for I don't know what. A poor pass from Fernandes to Eriksen, and of course it's Eriksen's fault. The complete lack of accountability Fernandes carries himself with is ridiculous, and is quick to pass the buck. But when I thought it couldn't get any worse, we got this. Fernandes was disappointed to get subbed against Sevilla, but he doesn't even look at Eriksen and doesn't bother to shake his hand properly. It's arrogant, it's toxic, it's Fernandes. When we talk about leadership, part of that is creating a togetherness. United are 1-0 down in this game, and the game was stopped for a head injury. This is how the team were for the whole of that timeout. Spread across the pitch, fragmented, with no directional leadership. And we want our captain to lead by example, setting the tone and standards in matches. Loses a 50-50 with Anthony Gordon. That's a solid 50-50 between McAllister and Fernandes, and we get a lovely pirouette from Fernandes. Fernandes is there to challenge Antonio for the ball and just lets him pass. But when opposition players are vulnerable or the game is gone, the cheap shots come out. I never thought I would agree with Simon Jordan, but his assessment on why Fernandes should not be captain was spot on, stating, I think he goes missing when there are moments of adversity. I don't think he is a leader. When you have leaders like that, you'll get a certain outcome. And if Manchester United's desire is to be top of the tree again, you're not going to get there with Bruno Fernandes as your captain. Be careful the kind of leaders that you want. I think they are all valid, accurate points. If you are suspect without the ball, you better bring it with the ball. Starting with goals, his best return in the Premier League was the 2021 season, and 16 is an impressive tally. But add a bit of context in terms of how many of his goals were penalties, and that this was the lockdown season, and maybe it doesn't carry the weight the stats suggest. The drop down since then has been huge, and we can see the goals to minutes ratio in the Premier League is way too big for a player playing in such an attacking role. And the fact he really gets subbed and completes every game he plays in adds additional context to how poor these stats are. In addition, he has scored one goal in his last 22 European appearances, and his goal against Burnley was his first away goal since January. Now, when it comes to assist stats, I take them with a pinch of salt. That's an assist, that's an assist, and that's an assist. So I'm going to look at how he contributes to games in general. This is where Fernandes is at his best, a bit deeper, in space, facing a high defensive line. In these situations, he is excellent at hitting punts over the top or through the defensive line. I would consider these passes medium tariff because of the margin of error the high line gives. However, credit goes where credit is due. He hits great passes in these situations. I know I said I'd take assist stats with a pinch of salt, but in the interest of fairness, here are Fernandes' assist stats in the Premier League. They are not very impressive, but an assist is only as good as the person that finishes the chance created. But an argument in favour of Fernandes has been, he hasn't had a decent striker to aim for, so could Højlund help improve Bruno's assist to minutes ratio? This is what Fernandes loves: a high defensive line, big gap to aim for, a big margin of error because of the amount of space in behind, and it's a lovely pass. But in the final third, where there is less space or a greater degree of accuracy is needed, he is very prone to giving the ball away cheaply and often. When it comes to Fernandes giving the ball away, the point has been made that because he puts the ball at risk more to make things happen, he will give the ball away at times, and that's a valid point. But in my opinion, the ease and regularity he gives the ball away is disproportionate to that theory, and disproportionate to similar players like De Bruyne, Maddison and Odegaard. This is an example of what people say Fernandes has been waiting for. Højlund makes this very good run and Fernandes has a decent gap to aim for, but he plays it behind Højlund. The ball is with Fernandes and he is about to hit a pass to Højlund, who is in a great position and has another decent gap to aim for, but hits the defender. Now, it could be the case that Fernandes is getting used to reading Højlund, but he does now have that top striker to aim for. I have to say this: the excuse provided to Fernandes by many United supporters that Ronaldo was to blame for his form was a disgrace. What's the excuse for Fernandes' form since Ronaldo left United? The devil's verdict is, Fernandes has been a decent player for United, at the level we have been operating at, and in an unfortunate way, that makes him the face of post-Sir Alex mediocrity. But it is subjective as to how successful he has or hasn't been. But whatever your opinion is, for the size of club United are, he has way too much clout compared to what he actually brings, and it's to the detriment of the club. And giving Fernandes the captaincy will be one of the major decisions made by Ten Hag that will eventually cost him. As a captain, he is on the same path as Maguire. The drop in Maguire's standards took away his authority. How can Fernandes confront McTominay after the Brighton game when his performance was every bit as bad, if not worse? In my opinion, there's a reason why he was playing in Portuguese football at 25 years of age, and why the only other offer he had was from Tottenham, and those reasons have been evident in the last 2 seasons. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.